Dig is basically a telling of the stories that we haven't heard much of about Aboriginal soldiers of World War One. It's the blooding of the nation. It's the first great war that we had after Federation. And to know that Aboriginal people were part of it, it's kind of forgotten. And so for me, there's a real invitation through these stories to come in and experience something, to sit down and understand Indigenous Australia a little bit more.
The white man needs us coloured boys now. Here in the shift, every face is round. You see the world turned upside down. See the world turned upside down. Fellas!
100 years ago, Aboriginal people were mostly on missions or reserves. You could get permission to be off the reserve to work as a domestic servant, or go work on a farm, or work in the city in manufacturing or whatever. But when people joined the AIF, suddenly all of those things just went away. Suddenly you were able to travel because you were part of the AIF. You were able to earn the same amount of money as a non-Indigenous person because you were part of the AIF. There were certain freedoms. And I think what motivated a lot of Aboriginal people is, number one, a certain sense of patriotism. A lot of men are going off to war. There's a sense of that's your duty. And I think that Aboriginal people weren't immune to that. Number two, I think there was a sense of freedom, of adventure, a sense of moving through the world in different ways, as all young men do, seeing something in another world that's outside of your experience. And number three, I think, was about trying to escape that oppression. You know, young men, sometimes 16, 17, lying about their age, lining up and going overseas because you know you're going to earn money, you know you're going to be able to travel, you know you're going to be able to experience things that you can't do if you sit in this government reserve.
And we're here because we're here, and now we're here. And that's what it is. And the whole world's going to have to organise itself around us.
Well, you can't put history back in the bottle, mate.
When Aboriginal men got to the battlefield, it was not that different, really. Like, you were often just one Indigenous person in a unit of mostly non-Indigenous people, and so you had to deal with maybe some forms of racism. But it's interesting, the military have the way you train, and when you face death day in and day out, or your bombardment, or all those things, those bonds are really strong. Once you face death together, you have to face life together, and that's a really important thing.
We lose a few mates, then they lose a few mates. The whistle blows and we gain another cricket pitch at Valley. The horn blows and they chase us out, but most of the time we just sit here and sing our songs, while they sit over there and sing theirs.
The stories are not just about being courageous in the face of an enemy, but about how you lived your life when you came back. And there was an incredible amount of disappointment, I think, because they had experienced these incredible bonds, these amazing friendships, and when they came back, they went straight back to what it was like before they'd left. They were under the rules of the Protector or the Protection Act. Their money was taken away from them. They couldn't get soldier settlements in the same way that their non-Indigenous mates could, or going to different memorials was being rejected. All the way through to the 1967 referendum, this was still the case.
We're going to grow old and grey sitting here.
I'd rather grow old than never grow old.
What I like to do as a theatre maker, especially in the Indigenous context, is to make sure that these stories have this platform, that we're writing onto the public record a history that isn't spoken of. Well, spoken amongst our families, but not publicly. And that part of this country's entire storytelling of is part of that we are, as a country, united in our history, not divided by it. Because 100 years ago, it's not just about what you can prove, but it's about what you can feel about this story and how this feeling has importance where we are now.